Good evening, Diyab. I'm Zahabia, and we're so excited to have you here, especially since you were like sort of the man of the brains behind Voice when its first edition happened. So we have a few questions, mainly kind of trying to understand your vision and what you really wanted to do when you thought about Voice. So to start off, I really want to know how you're doing this evening, and what is it that you're expecting from this edition of Voice?
I think Voice was started primarily because there was a gap in the region for filmmakers, especially at the time we had Dubai International Film Festival, which didn't have a category for expat filmmakers, which make up, I think, 90% of the population here. And so really there wasn't a platform or a festival for the people, and especially students here, apart from a few competitions. And at the time, I think there was talks with Dubai International Film Festival to start something. There were filmmakers working towards that, but it didn't happen. And right now, for a few years, the WOIS International Film Festival is also not happening. So especially now, I think it's very important to have this platform. That's why we started it. And even since then, the number of platforms we had, what little we had, it's also gone. So Voice is one of the, I think, the only film festival here of this scale, especially with the, like, international short films and everything. So it's a two-way street also. It's not that we have a platform where regional filmmakers get a chance to show their films, but also they get to see films from all across the world and learn from it as well. So that's important. And this is the only platform in the UAE that facilitates that.
So, Voice for us, I mean, I think for most media students right now over here is kind of like the one event that we're looking forward to. When it happens, interviews are taken, and everybody's really excited to get into their position. So, I really want to know like the backstory behind it. Like, what really gave you the idea to start Voice? What was the whole vision behind it? What was your planning? What was the initial stage like?
I think the initial stage, the very initially, it starts from my own needs as a filmmaker. I used to make movies and I didn't really have a platform to submit, and I used to go to these search for film competitions and film festivals, and it kind of really dried up and there wasn't anything happening. So there was a gap, and we used to talk about it. And then again, I always found the opportunity in being a student at a university like Manipal. We have a chance to make something. We have people, we have human resources and people ready to listen to us and start something. And the media was also lacking something, an event of that scale. So I went in, proposed it to the head of department then, which is Mr. Shukul. He left soon after, so they didn't go anywhere. We had Mr. Sabir as an acting chair. We spoke for a while. It was happening, and eventually Mr. Percy joined. So we're talking 3 head of departments passed through before it kind of became what it is. So I think the initial stages from my own needs as a filmmaker, it kind of sort of evolved from there to what it is today, I think.
Okay, I think, of course, you would be the best person to ask. So, since you've seen Voice start off from the beginning to now, we have the third edition. What difference, or like what's the growth that you see from the first edition? Like, what were the difficulties when you first started off? Because right now, I think because this is the third edition, right? We had the second and first edition to kind of fall back on. We knew if there were any mistakes, we knew what we had to do, any shortcomings, so we can like rectify those right now. But at your time, you didn't have any of that. It was really starting fresh. So, what do you think are like? What's the growth like for you from the first edition to the third edition?
I think the main thing that I see when we were starting and we used to go to people, and there was like, I think maybe 10,000 times that we had to explain what this voice was. It was called different names throughout its journey. At one point, it was called Desert Suns Film Festival. At one point, it was called Manipal International Short Film Festival, something like that. So, like I said, 3 head of departments within our school itself, the heads of the university, Niranjan sir and head of marketing Vinu sir, sponsors. We used to go and we used to pitch this idea, which was really vague for people to understand because there isn't really an image for people to associate with. There wasn't a venue, there wasn't a format, there wasn't a logo or name. These things came afterwards, but we had to have a base where to build that. So at the beginning, that was one of the most difficult, to create an image out of nothingness, right? But when the second edition came to be, we had videos of the first event, we had everything set up, we had a format to follow and everything. And right now, I think even when new students join and you tell them voice, they know what voice is. It's not a term anymore. There's an event behind it. I think that has really helped grow more. I see that every year we're getting more and more sponsors. There is that brand recognition, right? We're getting more film submissions every year. That was the initial intention, right? And even for filmmakers, when you're submitting and it's a film festival that no one's heard of, it means really. But now it's the third edition. It's been happening every year. There's very little competition here in terms of film festivals. So yeah, I think that growth is definitely happening.
Okay. And so Dr. Jason, the academic president of Manipal, has compared Voice to the Cannes Festival. So in alignment with your vision to how Voice would grow over the years, is that kind of what you were looking at, or has it exceeded your expectation?
With all due respect with what he said, and that it was really nice to hear it. I don't think Voice should ever aim to be something like Cannes. Cannes, it's a prestige show. It's where the big names everywhere go. Voice, I always meant it to be like a niche film fest. For one thing, we only focus on short films because short films is the most accessible format for anyone starting up. You know, with the budget they have, the crew that they don't have the capacity or resources to make a full-on feature film. So it's a niche. Our main primary aim is amateurs and upcoming filmmakers, student filmmakers. So we're never looking at that prestige. With that prestige, we don't really have these small people who are target audience. They don't really get a chance. So I think Voice should always exist in this sort of small format. Yeah, too much glitter, it attracts the wrong kind of light, I think.
Okay, and to sort of wrap up our interview, so obviously I'm sure when you started Voice, you had a vision of how it would grow over the years. You probably saw it being somewhere eventually. So let's take a shorter probably time span and make it 5 years. So in the next 5 years, where do you see Voice? Like, how do you see it growing?
I think definitely more brand recognition. There is a space for more, I think, recognition like Dubai International Film Festival used to have. When you talk about film festivals and Dubai, it used to be deaf. Right now there is no deaf. So obviously, but one of my aim was to capture that space of #1 film festival. We are that definitely, but I don't think it's quite there out in the world. Like Voice is not like a household name even for filmmakers within the region. So it has to happen slowly eventually, but that's I think one thing that I want to see happening. Another thing is I want more involvement from the international filmmakers. Maybe some of them can come here and do workshops and learn. I think it's happening on a small scale now, but on a much bigger scale. I also think we should do some sort of events outside Dubai, just to sort of create a recognition for the brand name. Yeah.
And my last bonus question, which I think most of us are curious about: what is your all-time favorite movie that you can watch over and over and over again and you will never ever get bored of?
It will probably be Interstellar by Christopher Nolan. Hard pick between, I think I will take three movies. Arrival by Denis Villeneuve, Interstellar and Inception, both by Christopher Nolan.
Awesome. The School of Media and Communication at Manipal thanks you for, kind of starting and envisioning this whole film festival, because I know at least our batch, all of us, like really, really looked forward to it and we enjoyed putting in all the work. And I think after the 3 days, it's all worth it. All the work, all the hustle bustle is completely worth it. So thank you so much. And we hope that this year's Voice and all the other Voice kind of meet your expectations or much more than that. Thank you.